Hello, in this video, we will discuss how to confront and make peace with feelings of guilt. We had started our video series by answering questions about the feeling of shame. In this series, we will attempt to answer questions about guilt. You can find answers to similar questions in my other videos on the channel. Without further ado, let's examine our question and start searching for answers. This question essentially consists of two parts. One is how to confront feelings of guilt, and the other is how to make peace with guilt. Fortunately, we can solve both issues in one go. To achieve this, we need to identify what we actually mean by the term feeling of guilt. To do this, we must liberate the concept we express as the feeling of guilt from the defining statements we use. To put it more plainly, we should no longer define this thing we feel as guilt. Let's refrain from giving it a name for now and observe its existence without a label. Because separating it from its identification allows us to move it away from being a mental expression or a thought cloud gathered under the name guilt. This way, we can easily see what we really need to confront and make peace with. The core issue is not the expression we define as guilt but the discomfort created by the energy labeled as guilt. It will be healthier to generate a solution oriented towards this discomforting feeling. If you have successfully reached this stage, one of the first things you'll notice is that there is nothing left to confront or make peace with. The only thing to do is to release this energy, which has no significant presence other than traces left from a past memory. We will explore the methods for releasing this energy. However, before that, we must ensure that we have freed ourselves from all definitions and expressions related to it. We can understand whether this has happened by reflecting on the liberation of this felt energy from its definitions. If your mind becomes silent after contemplating the liberation from its definitions, it can be said that the energy has detached itself. The discomforting feeling may still persist, but your mind is no longer getting lost among thoughts. Thoughts may still arise occasionally, but there is no longer a strong desire within you to suppress or escape from them. The echoes of this energy, now undefined and nameless, no longer occupy your mind. After this stage, we can truly look at what needs to be confronted and made peace with, the uncomfortable and uneasy feelings summoned by the guilt emotion. First, let's explain why we need to separate this energy from its definitions, and then let's describe how a practice can be conducted through liberated energy using an example. The reason for liberating this energy from its definitions is to truly see the problem we need to solve. Because the problem is not in the concept we define as guilt or in the energy defined by this concept. The issue lies in the one defining, not in what is defined, as it is the one defining who is disturbed by what is defined. As you well know, the same meaning does not apply to every object or subject. Humanity divides into two for concepts with more shades of gray, and each side believes in the rightness of its own perspective, just like in political ideologies and religious beliefs. In fact, the same applies to concepts widely shared and defined by the majority of humanity, such as guilt. Moreover, when we liberate something from its definitions, we move away from an external perspective. This brings us closer to finding a real and lasting solution, as the source of the problem is not in the thing we unknowingly separated from ourselves by defining it. When we say, this is something, it has a name, it has a definition, we unknowingly separate that thing from ourselves. Even worse, every time we make a definition, we also create a definition about ourselves in the unseen backside of the picture. This leads us into duality, and in duality, a permanent solution is never found. Everything exists with its opposite. Therefore, everything created must cease to exist simply because it was created. Every concept and meaning carries its opposite in the unspoken field within itself. For example, if we say, this is a created thing, we simultaneously say, this is a thing that will cease to exist. Because the dualistic mind cannot believe or accept otherwise, despite its desires. This situation is beyond the limits of the mind. This is why, technically, the greatest obstacle to enlightenment is the mind. Because our existence, known and believed to exist separately from everything else, is merely a thought. Let's set aside delving into this topic further for now, without complicating it. Understanding this is not necessary at the moment. We can directly do what needs to be done. In summary, what needs to be done is to liberate the thing we are experiencing from the concepts, names, and definitions that define it. In this last part of our video, we will explain how this practice can be done through an example. I will illustrate this practice, which I have been practicing for years and have seen the benefits of it as I have practiced it in my own life. When I feel guilt and it becomes unbearable, the first thing I do is to mentally and physically get away from everything and everyone I know, wherever I am, and turn inward. Even if it's in an environment that I can't get out of at the moment, I get as far away as I can and I start looking for this uncomfortable feeling that resonates within me with a definition like guilt. I do this searching and trying to find it in a very inert way. Because if I try to find it, I will unwittingly be playing a game of chase and flight. So I try to find it by not looking for it, but by just standing and waiting so that it stops running away because I'm not chasing it by trying to find it and starts to slowly and quietly retreat into my awareness. In this process it becomes more and more apparent over time. This is the most difficult step in this practice. Because the fact that it becomes apparent is actually where my feeling of discomfort starts to increase. At this stage, the cloud of thoughts again gets confused, darkens, and the storm starts to break. I have two options here, either to get caught in this thought cloud and experience a heavy emotional process such as guilt, blame, hatred, anger, and hold on to the addictions that this experience pushes me to, or to use all my strength and continue to sit quietly in this chaos. Let us choose to continue to sit quietly and unresponsive at this stage. In this process where we have to wait patiently, we just wait. Let's just stop without any reaction. When we choose this option, after a while there is a breaking moment when the rising emotional trend breaks like a branch and the rising emotional trend starts to decline. At this stage, we can witness that the emotional and mental chaos going on inside stops pushing and starts revealing itself. With this breaking moment, we may realize that this chaos is actually pushing this energy that we are uncomfortable with towards us, like pushing a rock. Sometimes a process needs to end in order for us to understand what we are experiencing, just like in this example. Another thing that we realize at this moment of breaking is that the reason why this chaos pushes the rock is because of the resistance we create. In this moment of breaking, it is actually our resistance that breaks. When the resistance is broken, we start to accept it, and just like a stream, this energy that we resist starts to flow through us. When the flow starts, we realize something else. This realization is that what we think is being pushed at us is not a rock at all. When our resistance is broken and dissolved and this energy begins to flow through us, it is no longer a rock but water. That's when a new awareness arises, which shows us that this energy is not that it stopped being a rock and started becoming water, but that it was water all along. This realization in turn triggers another realization, which is that the problem is in defining something as rock or guilt. Because the only reason we were resisting this energy in the first place, which is essentially water, is because we saw it as a rock. What I mean is that basically the source of problems is in definitions. In the dissolution stage, which is the last stage of our practice, just like what I'm talking about now, realizations emerge. In the dissolution stage, energies that vibrate at many high energy frequencies, like awareness, start to emerge. This is the final stage, and the feeling of being uncomfortable from the beginning is replaced by a feeling of relaxation. In this final stage of the practice, just as the pressure increases as we approach the breaking point, everything starts to get better at a great speed. I hope this helps you to solve your problems in your life. Please write to me with your comments and questions if you have any. Hope to see you in other videos. Stay well.